one right here. So you know what you do for me, please? Spread the message. Who knows? Today's conversation might be the much needed lifeline or the game changer for businesses and individuals out there. All right. Today we're talking about a very important conversation. I'm very excited about this because it's something you and I feel on a daily basis, whether you're actively involved or not. It actually affects each of our lives. So we are talking about the almighty foreign exchange market on the show today. I see a lot of people excited. That foreign exchange market. Okay, I must be on that show. So as I said, put a call out to your friends, your family members. Tell them to tune into Radio Nigeria wherever they're at right now to catch the conversation. Okay, should I give you a second to do that? Okay, all right, time up. So we'll be taking a look at what the FX market is, what drives the value of our currency, how to improve it, and the right channels to do your FX transactions, and whatever questions you have as well. Like it or not, the foreign exchange market affects us all. All right. By the way, we are on air and online. So if you want to see us live right now, head over to smegrowth.ng to get the details. We're actually live on YouTube, so you can see us live in the studio right now. But guess what? It gets even better. You can also be a part of the show, right? You can join the Money Gang for today from wherever you are, both in Nigeria and outside Nigeria. You can put a call through to us on these numbers. You can also send us text messages, by the way, or WhatsApp messages. So 0810 608 1681. I'll take that again. 0810 608 1681. Or if that's too easy for you, you can try 0818 202 5883. That's 0818 202. So those are the numbers to call us or send us a message through. If you've got questions, if you've got a need for clarification or anything, we are here for you. All right. Okay, I really mean that. So many of us are familiar with the term, the foreign exchange market, but if you're not, let's just assume you're not familiar with that term. But I'm sure you are aware of the Naira's recent fluctuations in relation to the dollar and other currencies. But the question is, do we actually know how the market functions? Because a lot has happened in the past few months, specifically 2 months and counting, especially with the unification of the exchange rate window by the Tinubu-led administration. But how does this affect me, you, and the economy at large? And what are the ways around this? Well, let's get into the conversation, ladies and gentlemen. The FX market. I've got my money gang with me today. Oh, yes, indeed. And I'll just be introducing them so we can get into the conversation. Joining me right here in the studio is Olufemi Oyekola, who's the head enablement and ecosystems at Stanbic IBTC Bank. It's good to have you on the program, Olufemi.
Thank you, Kennedy. My pleasure.
Absolutely. And joining us virtually are three gentlemen. Debola Olowo is the head trading at Fidelity Bank. Bankole Odusoya is a chief dealer at Polaris Bank. Akiemi, who is chief dealer at Keystone Bank. Gentlemen in suits, it's good to have you on the show. When we have questions like this, when we have issues around, finances and the rest, we naturally come to you, the financial expert. So thank you for being a part of the show and, coming up here to answer the questions. But let's start with the basics. Okay, there's so much to cover today. The basics. I know about the Oyinbo markets. A lot of people know about, eco markets. They know about supermarkets and the rest. But this FX market, let's just imagine there's someone out there wondering, what is this foreign exchange market about? What is FX market? I hear this a lot. Olufemi, please break the ice for us. What do we mean by this FX market?
All right, thanks, Kennedy. Let me start from market itself, which is a place where sellers and buyers meet to exchange their interest.
Yeah.
So taking that to FX, which is a short word for foreign exchange, a market where somebody who has dollars or foreign currency to sell is looking for somebody who is willing to buy, and the person's got Naira.
Mm-hmm.
So you use your Naira to buy the foreign currency, and then the holders of the foreign currency who requires Naira to fund this operation locally sells that to you and collects Naira. So simply put, that's what foreign exchange market in a layman's term is. Then before now, prior to the changes that you mentioned, the CBN rolled out about 2 months ago, we had multi-layers of markets. You have the investor and exporter window, which is a willing buyer, willing seller market. It replaces what we know as an interbank market, where you bring your dollars, you find a buyer at a rate you're looking to sell, and then you exchange the currency and everybody's happy. CBN also had windows that they had created to intervene in the market and try to ensure that the impact of fluctuation doesn't really eat and kill the market, the SME that you mentioned earlier on.
Yeah.
So they've got the retail window where bi-weekly SME commercial companies go to that window and then indicate the rate they're willing to buy. And the CBN uses its discretion to determine what is the cutoff rate and then they sell to those customers. Then you've got prior to then a wholesale market where CBN intervenes, comes into the market, sell in bulk to banks, and banks are expected to then go break the bulk to their needy customers. CBN just reintroduced that as part of what has happened in the last 2 weeks. I think in a nutshell, that's what the FX market outlook is. I don't want to go into the illegal one. And
we only do legal right here on the show. And the beauty about, I mean, it's good you mentioned that, is that legal has more control. I mean, it has more protections and the rest. But don't worry, we'll get into all of that. But it's important to lay the foundation about what this FX market is all about. And Olufemi has broken the ice. And I can imagine that a lot of people have listened to Olufemi and they're thinking, well, I don't go to that market clearly. Yes, I go to Igbo market, I go to other markets, but I don't operate in that FX market. But somehow, I still hear everywhere I go that the price of this is because FX has gone up. The price of that is because FX has gone up. So I'd like to take this to Adebola now and just get you to explain to us. I mean, we've gotten an insight on perhaps some of the participants in this markets, but if you can broaden this for us the more, who are the major participants in the market? And maybe this might help us understand as consumers, business people, why it affects all of us, whether or not you are a participant anyway.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. So I was saying, we have commercial banks, authorized dealers as licensed by the central banks, and financial institutions. We have investors, we have speculators, we have agents, we have corporations, we have all sorts of participants in the market. So their major objective is to either buy or sell. Some are there to make profit. Some are there to just manage their risk. So we have various participants. So as they come into the market, they tend to help in determining the value of the currency. In this case, using Naira, for instance. So the activities, that buying of the currency or selling of the currency, helps to shape, to determine the value of the Naira. That is when you say a currency is depreciating or a currency is appreciating. So the currency will depreciate when it's losing value. For instance, you have Naira dollar. So when you have demand for dollar, what happens to dollar? It appreciates. That is, the participants are buying dollars and they are selling Naira. So Naira in that case depreciates. The activities on the buy side and the sell side helps to determine the value of the Naira. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Adebola, for that. I will also get into those terms: appreciation, depreciation, devaluation, revaluation, all of those shun when it comes to the FX market. I will still come into that, but we're still talking about the participants in the foreign exchange market. And maybe I should just bring this home the more. So there are like 4 categories at least. There are people who do not buy or trade in foreign currencies, but the value of the dollar to the naira, I think that's the most popular, still affects them. And I'm talking regular people, local farmers, retailers, people who only transact in naira, which is our local currency. So there's that category. There's another category of maybe MSMEs, importers, students studying abroad, people who are seeking foreign exchange, who are seeking either the pound or the dollar and the rest. So those ones, of course, they know they're actively involved, it would seem. There's also the local manufacturers, people who import, or let me say people who export rather, people who manufacture here. They maybe import raw materials, then export the finished products and foreign investors. So I'm going to go to Bankole. So maybe walk us through all of those categories, some others that were not mentioned, and just help us understand what the FX market means to them and how it affects them specifically now.
Thank you very much, Kayode. I would like to start by speaking to the category A, where these people may not be participants in the FX market directly. However, as it is, especially in Nigeria, they will be indirectly affected. We're talking about local farmers and people who just go by their daily work, farmers, palm wine tappers, and fishermen. These people rely to some level of transportation. And as we speak, Nigeria's petrol and other sources of energy are mainly imported. So therefore, they are exposed to foreign exchange market cost implication. On the other hand, the other item that they most likely be leaning on is wheat that is used to make flour for bread. That's another very popular staple in Nigeria. So you may be in your farm fishing and not relying so much on the FX market directly as a participant. Your purchase and your daily livelihood, your basic consumption may be indirectly affected by the cost and the availability and scarcity and all these discussions we're having around FX. So that's to the first category. To the second category, there are small businesses, importers, students studying abroad. These people are depending on imported education, imported materials, and imported raw materials, education, and services. They are very, 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 very exposed to FX fluctuations. These people are, and because they are small businesses, they do not have the kind of capacity to go into markets, probably into hedging or buying ahead of time, which we call going into, let's say, forward agreement. It becomes very challenging whenever there's a slight shift, either by devaluation or by depreciation or any form of scarcity. So basically, these people are very exposed, and they usually suffer the brunt of these shifts in the foreign currency pricing in the FX markets. The third category are the local manufacturers. These are the people who largely bring in some raw materials or equipment to make production. It is possible that we have some local manufacturers who have probably more of their percentage elements that go into their production being locally produced. Those ones have fewer challenges. However, the bigger problem is that where they depend on raw materials or equipment to come from abroad, they are still exposed to a larger extent.
Right.
Whenever there's challenges with FX rates and scarcity and all that, it becomes, you then have to look at it from the other side, being local manufacturers can benefit. It's not all gloom and doom. It's not all doom when there's FX challenges. Local manufacturers could benefit, and then the foreign investors are those who bring in money are seeking to return their funds, their dividends, their coupon. They have challenges when there's scarcity, and then they become discouraged to come back. So these are the major participants in the market. All of them are participants directly or indirectly, and then these are how I've been able to shed light on how the scarcity or surplus sometimes affects these people basically. But as we go on into discuss I would like to speak more on local manufacturers and how
Indeed.
SMEs in Nigeria could lean towards local production.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Bankole. And if you're just joining us, this is a Financial Literacy and Public Enlightenment radio show brought to you by the Bankers Committee. We're talking the foreign exchange market. Yes, the almighty foreign exchange market. Whether you go to the market to buy tomato, the woman selling tomato or the man selling tomato will tell you, Oga, na FX Kosamo. Whether you're buying petrol, you know that all around us, whether directly or indirectly, the foreign exchange market is a major factor. So that's what we're focusing on today. And the beauty is that we're taking a look at it also from the angle of, latching on to, yes, a lot of people are talking about the gloom, but as Bankole said, it's not all gloomy really when it comes to the FX market. You can actually still benefit from it. So if you want to know how to, this is the right place to be right here on the show. By the way, you can be a part if you've got questions, if you've got need for clarification, whatever it is, you can call us on 0810-608-1681 or 0818-202-5883. You can also send us messages via WhatsApp or text. We're right here. I've seen some questions coming in already. Don't worry, we'll take them, not to worry, all right? You can also send in your questions via the virtual platform, all right? We're everywhere for you right now. So let me go to Abayomi. Fantastic conversation we're having, but I just need to still get some terms out of the way because we've heard a lot about Naira is devalued, or is it the value is going down, or let me put it more appropriately, Naira is depreciating, then sometimes you hear it's appreciating, but then you hear it's depreciating again. So these terms, appreciation, depreciation, devaluation, revaluation, please, these are big words. Help a young Nigerian. What do these mean really when it comes to the FX market, Abayomi?
Thank you very much, Kayode, for having me. Okay, so I'll take them one after the other. So when we say a currency appreciates, that means that the value of the currency is increasing. And this happens as a result of the interaction of willing buyers and willing sellers in the market. As mentioned by Femi earlier, we have market participants that come into the FX market, each of them with their objectives. So in their interaction in buying and selling the currency, be it dollar or any other major currency, the value of these currencies change. So when the currency is appreciating, it's the market forces of demand and supply for these currencies that will determine, whether the value of the currency is going up. So when you have the value of the currency going up, if the currency becomes more valuable, it means the currency is appreciating as a result of market forces of demand and supply. That's for appreciation. The reverse is the case for depreciation. When market forces of demand and supply makes a currency to lose its value, it means that the currency is depreciating. That is basically what appreciation and depreciation is. When it's the value of the currency is strictly determined by the market forces of demand and supply. So when it goes up, that's an appreciation. And when the value reduces, that's a depreciation. However, for revaluation or devaluation, a devaluation is a deliberate or calculated attempt by the authority to reduce the value of a currency. That's when it's a devaluation. It is calculated or deliberate, and it's done by the authority, be it the government or the monetary authority, to reduce the value of a currency. That's devaluation. And devaluation has its own objectives. So when a government or a regulatory authority reduces the value of a currency, that's a devaluation. The reverse is a case for a revaluation. When the government or the monetary authority increases the value, does a calculated or deliberate increase in the value of the currency, and that's a revaluation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abayomi, for that. So now we understand some of those terms. So just in case during the course of this conversation, you hear those terms, at least we understand what they mean. We just wanted to lay the basics so we can get into the big one. So let me come back to you, Olufemi, right here in the studio. And I can imagine the person listening to us right now. Maybe the person is trying to queue for petrol, and the person has heard from reports that it's because of the dollar, or that's why, petrol is probably unavailable or is scarce wherever you are. So this would hit home the more. But is there a simple way to explain why the value of our naira? Yes, you've laid the premise, the market forces and the rest, but particularly for our case, because sometimes people say that the case of Nigeria is not textbook. You can say demand and supply for textbook, but when it comes to Nigeria, it's quite different. What are the main factors that are affecting the value of Nigeria's naira as it is today?
Okay, thank you, Kade. To start with, we are predominantly an importing country. We don't produce most of the things we consume here. So to that extent that you have a need to always bring what you are consuming from outside, you don't pay them naira, you pay foreign currency. So the more you chase the foreign currency, then your own currency, naira, weakens. And it's not negative all the time. Sometimes you need to deliberately also weaken your currency in order to attract investment from outside the country. So in simple economic terms, forces of demand and supply play a major role in determining currency, except where those currencies are actually controlled, where government comes out to dictate price. Well, that's why a free market. So best practices require that you allow forces of demand and supply play. And when they're in play, you experience all those factors that you mentioned in terms of naira being eroded.
And that brings me naturally to the next question, which is at the heart of our conversation, the new CBN FX policy. So when this government came into power, a major decision was made about the CBN's policy. And I'd like you to just explain to us, as someone on the back end, I mean, you understand this more than what we see on the pages of newspaper, the report. What does this new policy entail, and what are the consequences of that new CBN policy on exchange rate? Is it unification and the rest? Just help us understand.
Okay, so to the extent that no country exists on its own, nobody's an island, you still have to interact with the rest of the world. So they see us as wasteful in that we've got too many markets where we could have allowed the force of demand and supply that I mentioned earlier on. So they've agitated for a long time for us to collapse all of these markets into one.
I heard we had like 4 at least.
We have, without going to the other one we don't want to talk about, you have 2 markets from the central bank officially on their own. Then you have the IEFX market, which they introduced along the line, which is supposed to be the key market where willing buyer and willing seller actually meet. And then once they agree on the pricing, then a transaction is done, which is where we have now come back to, dancing to wisdom, to say it's safer to have a single market where buyers and sellers of FX would meet and then trade. So that is in place now. It also emphasizes the fact that it's a willing buyer, willing seller market. So nobody's going to be dictating the price. We had in the past where prices are dictated and then they come to the market one way or the other. So that is no longer the case. And then there is no limit to what you can sell in that market once you have supply. And then because you are now able to sell at whatever price you are looking at, factoring all your costs, it encourages the exporter of goods out of Nigeria to then come into that market rather than going to their banks. The bank is pushing back. We can't buy above certain rates. But now there is no cap. You can actually dictate to whatever price is selling at, and you'll be lucky you get a buyer somewhere that meets you somewhere. So those are the key ones that really affect the common man on the street.
Thank you very much, Olufemi. I'd been a bit confused about the policy and what it exactly means. And I imagine a lot of people out there as well. So this, as I said, is the right place to be. And the beauty of this conversation is that we'll be giving you some tips as to how you can latch on to, the opportunities. Yes, a lot of people are saying, yes, the economy, the value of the naira to the dollar is biting hard. But I tell you this, there are still opportunities, and we can actually ride, do I call it a storm or this wave, and get it to work for us. So let me go to Adebola and just get perhaps a specific example, get you to respond to it. So let's talk about manufacturers now. Does this new exchange rate mean that, or this new exchange rate regime mean that manufacturers can maybe now approach their commercial banks, get foreign exchange, no longer rely, on those other markets for their foreign exchange needs? How does it affect access to foreign exchange, which, as we all know, is a major factor for business owners, particularly manufacturers and the rest? Okay, Adebola, looks like we have a challenge. I cannot hear you quite well, so I don't know if something with the audio connection or
What about
something.
now?
So if we could just take that again from the top. I do not want us to miss any of your contributions. Adebola.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, perfect. Now I can hear you.
Good. So I was saying, as Femi said, prior to now, we had multiple exchange rates. So that created some kind of inefficiency in the market, and some kind of volatility too in the market. But with the creation of, with the floating of the Naira now, and what CBN said, that, and what has been happening is that manufacturers can approach their banks for foreign exchange. So what they've done is just to create a single window, which is the I&E window, where buyers of FX can come there, and the sellers too can come to that same window and present whatever they have to sell. So this kind of brings about efficiency, price discovery. You don't have to look out, to the other market to, look for FX. And another thing I would like to say, on the part of the manufacturers is that what they should normally do is to create some kind of a pricing strategy,
Right.
for the operations, such that it would be in line with the FX fluctuation, in that market. So the rates are not stable now, no doubt, but it would help them to efficiently price their product. Why we have some form of hike of volatility at the moment is because the suppliers of the FX are few. Why the demand? We have
high.
huge demand on that market, so it's creating some kind of mismatch. So that was why I'm suggesting, that pricing strategy, which I believe most of them are already, factoring and implementing their, various businesses. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adebola. We're due for a break now, gentlemen. We'll go to break, but when we return, so there's a common thread I've gotten from this conversation is the fact that, yes, supply of, FX is not where it ought to be. Yes, there's been the reliance on crude and the rest, which is like our major forex earner. But we're seeing what non-oil sectors are doing. And when I say non-oil sectors, I'm talking about the MSMEs out there, the U's, the I's, the businesses that are doing quite well. So how can we perhaps latch onto those businesses? What should they do to at least be a part of this forex market, maybe earn more, and of course, add to the supply of foreign exchange, which we have in Nigeria. So if you are a business owner, if you're about to start up, if you're unemployed, whatever the case is, you would want to wait for the second half of the conversation. This is still the FLP, the Financial Literacy and Public Enlightenment radio show, brought to you by the Bankers Committee, and we'll be back in a few seconds. Stay with us.
Yeah, Central Bank of Nigeria don't announce change of currency. We no panic. When you want pay or you can collect money, different options will go. In case cash no day available, you fit use mobile app, internet banking, ATM, POS, USSD, QR code, Naira, and others. Then take do your transaction. And if you don't get bank account, visit your bank. Make them open up for you. Make you no panic. Last, all of us go day all right. This message are from Bankers Committee.
All right, you're welcome back to the Financial Literacy and Public Enlightenment radio show, brought to you by the good people at the Bankers Committee. As I said, if you're a business owner, whether macro, micro, nano, small, whatever the case is, even if you're unemployed, as far as you've got interests in bettering your financial lot, then this is the place to be. I've still got 4 gentlemen with me, members of the Money Gang. They've been inducted officially. Abayomi Akiemi, the chief dealer, Keystone Bank, Bankole Odusoya, the chief dealer, Polaris Bank, Adebola Olo, the head trading Fidelity Bank, and Olufemi Oyekola, who's the head enablement and ecosystems at Stanbic IBTC Bank. All of these gentlemen have been helping us understand the new FX policy of the central bank and essentially how the FX market works, as we said earlier on, whether you like it or not. As far as you're a Nigerian, you operate in this economy, the FX affects you whether directly or indirectly. And just before we went on that break, Adebola was helping us understand, the practicalities of having to, get access to FX, particularly for manufacturers. So let's talk about the all-important question on the minds of a lot of Nigerians. And I'll come to Bankole Odusoya for this one. So a lot of people have always asked, why is it difficult to rein in the value of the Naira? It looks like it's been a major challenge for governments upon governments upon governments. And I don't know, is there a simple question or rather a simple answer to this, honestly, Bankole? Reining in the Naira, why has it been difficult?
Thank you very much. Since 1984, since the first devaluation, it's been very difficult, despite the various policies, fiscal policies being put in place by the various governments. We've heard several speakers say, it's because of policy inconsistency or change in government and lack of continuity. I dare to say that it's majorly because of our consumption pattern, not well matched with our level of productivity. We want to consume certain vehicles, certain services, but we are not as productive as we desire. So unfortunately, the foreign exchange that we earn from crude oil being the major export proceeds of Nigeria is being fretted away into consumption and rather than production. This came up during the last election as a very important topic, that we were focused more on consumption of value and rather than productivity. And that's why I was going to go back to look at MSMEs and local manufacturers, that the advice for them right now is that once they are still small, they should focus on exportable commodities or services such that they could improve the earnings, export proceeds of the country. That helps to create a balance of trade. Right now, we have an adverse balance of trade where we are importing more than we are exporting. If you were to remove crude oil from our balance of trade, you would be having a deficit rather than a surplus. And that's where the challenge has been since 1984, where it was moved from 1 Naira to 4 Naira per dollar. And today we're talking of about 750 at the official market, and in the alternative market it's just as high as 950. So basically our consumption exceeds our productivity, and we are not earning as much from the global market like we should. We're a country of 200 million people. We shouldn't be importing everything that we're going to consume by way of consumables or even services, education, healthcare, and even security equipment not being produced in Nigeria. Almost everything is imported, including toothpicks. So that's the challenge. We need to reorientate ourselves as a people, especially from the MSMEs who are just starting small. You can go into cooperatives and groups so that if you don't have licenses to export abroad, you can produce, and then that one person that has a license, you can supply. So that our chain of exports improves, the value chain of exports improves through these MSMEs, and the banks also are working towards this to ensure that they are well funded, and then infrastructure is provided to them to ensure their long-term survival and growth. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Bankole. And I'm glad you mentioned this, particularly for businesses. We need to focus. I'm saying we because, hey, who knows? I'm also getting advice from here. We need to focus more on exportable commodities. We should explore that further, really, during the course of this conversation, so we better understand why this is important and what this will do to our current reality. But just as a follow-up, Bankole, quickly. So I realized that you mentioned two markets, the official and the alternative. How do they work? Just quickly, in case people are wondering, this official and alternative, how do they work and where are they?
So the official market is that market where you could approach the bank to say, oh, I want to pay for school fees, PTA, invisibles, or even importation of plant property and equipment that qualify. There are items or services that do not qualify. According to the central bank communique, that's identified 41 items and all that. So basically, there's the official market where items that qualify for FX are being allowed for FX within the banks and other authorized BDCs. But non-qualified items are then the FX demand for those ones are then moved to the alternative market. I'm calling it alternative because I do not like the word black market or parallel market. So it's the alternative market away from the official market, where the willing buyer meets a willing seller who has export proceeds, and they agree rates at their own terms, and then they settle. But at the official market, we have an order book for all customers, such that when we get from central bank intervention, and then when we get from willing sellers also, we still do the same thing. But the problem at hand is very obvious. It's that supply is not as much as the demand, which has created a gap and then a spike in the rate at which we're exchanging the naira for the dollar. So basically, those are the two markets. The official window where good to go, we call them 41 items that are good for FX and then are being traded. And then for those who are not allowed, those items that are not permissible are then moved to the alternative markets, basically.
All right, thank you very much, Bankole. Let me go to Abayomi, but just before that, I need to remind you that you can send in your questions if you have some of those itching questions and you want answers. These are experts, and I usually say that it's very difficult sometimes to get these minds, these experts in the same room at the same time. It's usually very difficult because of their busy schedules and the rest. But today we have gotten them in the same room. So let us maximize their presence, okay? Let us maximize it. So send in your questions. You can call us live as well, 0810-608-1681. I have opened the phone lines right now. So 0810-608-1681 or 0818-202-5883. You can go over to WhatsApp, send us a question, or just call us in. We're here for you, okay? Not to worry. So let me go to Abayomi, because a lot of people would then say, if we're saying that supply is not matching demand, yes, but a lot of people sending money now. There's this, diaspora remittance. People somehow, there's dollar here and there. So how come? And it just reminds me that Nigeria's acting CBN governor, Mr. Folasade Shonubi, raised the issue of diversion of diaspora remittances to other markets, saying that that's weakening the naira. I don't know. What can we do about this? I mean, do we need to tell people how to handle, diaspora remittances and the rest? What might be the solution to this, Abayomi?
Thank you very much, Caroline. Okay, so what the acting CBN governor is alluding to is the fact that diaspora remittances are expected to be sold in the official market Of course, some of these remittances are sold in the official market, but the bulk of it are sold in the alternative market, as mentioned by Bankole. But it's straightforward because everybody wants to maximize their value. So if you have a situation where you can get more naira for $1 in the alternative market, as an entity, you would want to, trade where you can get more value. So long as we have rates in the alternative market higher than the official market, it's an incentive for people that have diaspora remittances, and that's why the supply of that from that source is going into the alternative market. What should the regulators do? Of course, there has to be regulation because the international money transfer organizations and remittance companies that does this, that remits these diaspora funds are registered with the Central Bank of Nigeria. So in that regard, the CBN has to, in a way, compel these companies to make sure that in conjunction with the banks, make sure that these funds are sold in the official market, albeit at a competitive rate, because again, we cannot continue to deny people value for money when they have alternative markets where they can get more naira for the dollar. So in a way, the central bank has to find a way to compel these companies in making sure that these funds are sold into the official market, of course, at rates that are much more competitive than what we have now. Thank you.
All righty, thank you. And I think it's worth reiterating. Let me come to Olufemi here in the studio. This point, is there a way we can also speak to people? Because there's a willing buyer, willing seller, setup available. So to that extent, it is your dollar or it is your FX. You can decide what to do with it. But is there a way to maybe appeal to the conscience of people and help them see how this affects the big picture that we're trying to achieve as a nation? Do you see a way around this as well?
Yeah, got it. Thank you. I'm not sure how you can appeal to people's emotion around value when their sweat is concerned. If I sweat so much that I've earned profits, I would definitely want to convert at the best rate ever to get the naira requirement that I put. Don't forget, I could have borrowed money from banks. I will pay interest on that borrowing, travel as far as Akure to go buy cocoa and all of that. The business to make money and profit. So I'm not sure how moral suasion will apply to me selling the proceeds at a rate to be determined. After all, it's also a defeat to the willing buyer, willing seller concept, which is best practices. I don't know if I answered your question.
Oh, yes, indeed. And I want us to now wind down, as we wind down in this conversation. So let's talk about the win. We've talked about some of the downsides, but we've also touched about, the wins as well, particularly for businesses. Because I imagine that if before you sell a product, let's imagine you make shoes, just a shoemaker, you sell your shoe for $5. Okay, you export your shoes, sell it for $5. Well, that's quite cheap. But let's just imagine $5 for your shoe. At a time when the value of $1 to naira was 500, you'll be earning what? 5 times 500. That's 2,500. As at today at 950, you'll be earning upwards of what is that? And that's 4,500 at least. So I think is it fair to see that as a positive?
Well, I think the answer to the question is a fair market is always the best thing, always the best place to exchange currency. So if you take it to the market and then there's a willing buyer willing to take it at your rate, then that's a fair deal. I do not want to talk about managed markets, where we know of a lot of countries in the world that are not aligning their currency to trade against the rest of the world and all of that, but they struggle as well. So a fair deal is to open the market up. It will be tough initially, but definitely by the time all the parameters and factors that drives exchange rate starts falling into places, then we'll reap the benefits.
So you're saying that essentially there will come a time where this will stabilize?
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
All right, let me go to Adebola. So, I mean, Olufemi says there comes a time that this will stabilize. It's what, been 2 months, at least 2 months since this policy has been announced. So some will say this is still early days yet. But Adebola, so let's talk about the benefits to the current value of the naira to the dollar that businesses and Nigerians can maximize. I would like us to end this conversation on a high, on giving hope and really encouraging people to go out there and maximize this. Adebola, it's all yours now. No, please unmute. You're muted.
Yeah, I've done that. Can you hear me now?
Okay, yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So I actually wanted to add to what Femi said earlier. So when you have a devalued currency, there are benefits, there are advantages and disadvantages. One of the advantages that to the exporter, it's a win-win for him because he gets more local currency. So somebody exports good, right? So he was getting the proceeds when the dollar comes back to Nigeria, it's getting 460, but now it's getting maybe 790 or thereabout, or even more, depending on the market. So for an exporter, it's a win-win, and for an importer, it's actually a minus because when you bring in those goods, they become more kind of expensive. So that brings up the issue of how does it affect inflation? It affects inflation negatively because it takes inflation up. So that's what some people term as imported inflation. So when you have that, how does the CBN react? CBN reacts by jacking up the interest rates to curb the inflationary pressure. And the cycle goes on like that. So I would say it's positive, and at the same time, it's negative depending on the side where you are.
All righty. Thank you, Adebola. So let me take questions now. Some of the questions that have been sent in because time is not our time, or it's not our friend really on the show. I mean, we could go on and on about this all important topic. So I'll take this one. Ogumodede Matthew Rotimi. Okay, this is a thank you message. Thanks for this great eye-opening sessions for us MSMEs. Thank you very much. We appreciate that you are able to join us. And this one is from Kile, and I'll be asking Bankole to take this up. The question is, aside our over-dependence on imports of essentials, we have powerful speculators that have the power to influence and determine price movement. And the question from Kile is, what are the authorities doing about this? This question is particularly about powerful spectators. Bankole? Speculators rather, not spectators. I need to be clear. Thank you very much, Olufemi.
Thank you. The speculators are not exclusive to the Nigerian market. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can.
The speculators are not exclusive to the Nigerian market. What we need to do as a country is to orientate ourselves to be more export-oriented. Right from primary school to secondary school, we need to teach productivity and exportable goods and services. We need to put it into ourselves like the Asians. I remember when in the 80s, when they used to export just sharpeners, today they are exporting software, and every item in the phone is being produced in Asia. They started from sharpeners and pencils from Shanghai, and right now they have developed over 30, 40 years. So what we need to do is to cover the gap. If there were no gap, the speculators would not be able to take advantage. There are market speculators everywhere in the world, including in the United States. In fact, in those markets, third currency trading is properly allowed and regulated. So you trade on currency gaps and then make money and make losses and just hedge for profit or even for liquidity. So we can't remove speculators. They are powerful, they are knowledgeable, and they look for gaps where supply is very little. They take advantage and then sell at higher than normal market rates. So what we need to do is to improve our exports to to improve the gap between the supply and demand. Basically, if you try to enforce some form of chase against speculators, you'll be wasting your time, because for as long as the gaps are there, advantage is there to be taken.
Indeed. I think I was reading about a particular country where, there's a speculator, and there was a social media account open for that speculator, and there was this uproar that, well, this just makes the situation worse. So as you said, yes, this is a global issue, but we need to fortify our minds, change our orientation as a nation. And I'll just go to Abayomi as we begin to coast home on this one. So I'm picturing a lot of young people who are working remotely. For example, they stay in Nigeria, they're working for companies abroad, they're earning some sort of foreign exchange. So that's improving our supply. I know, lots of musicians too who are earning, money, dollars and the rest from streaming their music. Essentially, import is no more just the hard products. You can also import a lot of export, rather. You can export a lot of things aside just goods. So if you can just wind down on this one, what are some viable businesses that are sure FX earners? Just give us ideas, so as we wind down, people can take this up and maybe fly with it.
Thank you very much, Harry. Yes, there are several sure FX earners. From our elementary school days, we know about cash crops and food crops. So cash crops are crops such as rubber, cocoa, wheat, food crops, yam, other things. All these in the global market right now are sure FX earners, because some countries don't have good soil to grow crops, and Nigeria has a very good climate and we can grow a lot of crops. I think that over time the CBN has been intervening in the agricultural sector, but are we seeing the desired result? That is up for question. But we need to intensify our effort in growing more cash crops and food crops for exports. That's one. Two, Nigeria also has minerals that also has to be exploited more. Limestone, other minerals that we have in the south and up north needs to be exploited more, so that we can increase the production of these minerals. Those are also sure FX earners. In terms of services, we all know that Nigerian doctors have been moving abroad. If there's a way the government can organize this, if countries like Cuba, even Venezuela, their doctors are sent abroad by their government. Even North Korea send experts, even though North Korea is a pariah state, they send experts abroad to earn foreign exchange. So if there's a way the government can organize these things, and so probably create an association or a body that will coordinate the exportation of the services of our doctors abroad, our teachers from our universities. We know that our lecturers go for exchange programs in other countries. If the government can create a body that will, monitor these things, it can be a sure FX earners for the country, because we have several countries of the world that coordinate these activities of expatriates, and forex is earned directly by the government. So if apart from cash crops and food crops, like I mentioned, and minerals, professional services can also be exported, and those are sure FX earners. Thank you. Yeah.
Gentlemen, I wish we had more time, but let's end in about 30 seconds with this. And Olufemi, I'll let you have the last say on this one. What are the right channels to go to if I want to trade in Forex? I know it's been a major controversy, but where are the right channels to go to?
I'll tell you just what which is what the CBN has just done about 2 months ago. It's the investor and exporter window market, which is the only official market right now. Every bank's a participant. Even CBN comes from time to time to intervene in that market, and they're still doing so. So that is the only direction I'll put you to.
All righty. And is it available for everybody?
Yes, it is. It's driven by demand and supply. When there's supply, then you see price coming down. So what you're seeing currently, it's because it's the other way around, right? There's so much demand than the supply that we have. But like I said earlier on, it's going to get better.
Well, we'll end on that cheery note. It's going to get better. So as a Nigerian out there, let's get our thinking caps on. Let's work for this country. Let's export our ideas. Let's export our goods and services. I tell you, together, we can make this country work. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Olufemi Oyekola, Adebola Olo, Bankole Odusoya, Abayomi Akiemi. Thank you so much for taking time out to walk us through this all-important topic of the FX policy. And on behalf of the production team, Bolanle Oyemi, who's Director FRC and Lagos Operations, Maria Owoma was Assistant Director Programs, as well as the engineering team, Latif Olatunde, Daniel Koye, Idowu Eusebio, Adwan, that's real one, Oladejo, of course, Samuel, who's on the camera. Thank you so much for being a part of this show. Till we come back next week, don't forget to always make profit